Hi guys, this is Falcao and I am here today to talk about my Fresh Start February vegan challenge and also to show you guys a really tasty and healthy vegan recipe which is an adaptation from an old Trinidad and East Indian recipe that I learned growing up from my parents. I have quite a few friends who are vegan and I've always heard them speaking of how great they feel and how healthy they are by cutting out meat and dairy completely out of their diet. And it was something for me to do in 2019, a year of being introspective and really taking care of myself holistically, and with guidance of a really dear friend of mine who is an amazing guy. He's a fitness instructor, vegan, upcoming model, etc. Kudos to him and thank you so very much for being part of my journey. He's guided me along into this journey of being a vegan. And also to note, I'm happy to see that I have other friends who have been thinking about doing this vegan challenge, and now that I'm doing it, they've asked me to document it. And I'm hoping that by the end of this, it helps you make a decision and helps you see how that it's not a hard process of switching from eating meat into becoming a vegan and adopting the vegan lifestyle. The recipe that I'm going to be doing, it's what back in Trinidad they call a baigan and aloo choka. Baigan being the East Indian vernacular for eggplant, and aloo being the name for potatoes. And what I'm doing to this to make this, a nice, well-rounded, hearty dish, we're adding some tomatoes to it, which some people do that already with the aloo and baigan choka, and I'm also adding some mushrooms to it, so that adds another dimension of flavor and texture to this dish. It's going to be curried, so it's the Trinidad East Indian curry, so it's going to be amazing. It's going to be tasty. You're not going to miss any meat from this whatsoever. Okay, so before we get started, I'm just going to show you the ingredients that we're working with. This is our curry mixture. How we do curry in Trinidad, a curry is a mixture of different Indian spices blended together, and that's what gives it that really nice flavor. So here I have curry leaves, or we call it carpule back in Trinidad. We have a little bit of the darker one, that is amchar masala. The lighter one on this side right here, that is roasted jeera. Jeera is comino seeds or coriander seeds that have been roasted and grounded. I have a little bit of hot and spicy curry powder, and I have some good old-fashioned Chief brand curry powder. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to add some water to this, make this into sort of a runny paste, and then we're going to cook this, and this is going to be the base of our curry. All right, so we are going to begin. So we're keeping it vegan, everything plant-based. So today we're going to be using this Simply Nature coconut oil, unrefined cold pressed virgin oil. We're going to use, now depending on the temperature, it's going to look like this because it's coagulated, because it's cold. But once it melts, it's going to get nice and clear. It also has a really nice flavor, and it's very aromatic, so it's going to give an awesome flavor to this dish. So we're going to take like 1 tablespoon of it, put that into our pot, and let that melt, and that is going to be our base for which we cook. Now while we let this melt, we're going to start adding our base ingredients. Now, I like to do this ahead of time. It is normally we will cut up onions and garlic. What I like to do, I have my food processor and I just chop up, onions, garlic, and cilantro, or the Caribbean people know it as bandania or shadow benny. And I have my mix right here. So we're going to add some of that in, but before we add that, we're going to use comino seeds or jira seeds as we know it from the Caribbean. We're gonna just add a little bit of that, and we're gonna put that in there. They're gonna bubble up and they're gonna fry just a little bit. So we let that sit and simmer a little bit, and then we add like a couple teaspoons, well, not teaspoons, this is tablespoons, a couple tablespoons of this mixture. Let's be careful. And let this and we'll leave this to sort of caramelize. Now, to this, we're going to take the curry leaves, kind of break them up a little bit, put them in there, and then our curry mix that we have made into this runny paste. Alright, so we take our curry mixture and we throw that in here. And then what we're going to let this do, we're going to let that cook. What I like to do, I like to cover this down, and then you're going to leave that and let that cook for about 2 or 3 minutes until the water's evaporated and it's kind of dry and it's actually starting to burn a little bit. So as we call burning the curry. So we'll be back with in a couple minutes with that to continue the process. Okay, so we are back, and if you look at it now, our curry paste is nicely done. See, the water has evaporated from it, and it just come down to this really thick paste. This is the sort of consistency that we are going for. So at this point, we turn the temperature on the stove down to like medium heat. And at this point, I like spicy, so you can add crushed red peppers. They add just enough spice without making it ridiculous and unedible, as opposed to using fresh peppers. But of course, you have the option to use fresh hot peppers, like Jamaican Scotch bonnet peppers, or if you have Trinidadian peppers of any level of heat, please, by all means, feel free to use it. So, great. So you see how this has come down to this consistency. This is exactly what we want. Perfect. So what we're going to add now, we're going to add our eggplant. This is a 1 pound eggplant as cut up. I left the skin on, but I like the skin. Skin has lots of nutrients. You also have the option to peel the eggplants, but you can also leave it unpeeled. And then we have our potatoes. Now our potatoes have been sitting in water, and that's to prevent it from getting discolored, from oxidizing and getting discolored. So we just want to drain that off. So this is like 4 medium-sized potatoes. We've added that in there. And we give that a little stir. Now, the good thing about this is that the eggplant is going to emit its own water. So having to add water to this recipe, you add very little to none, because when you leave this to cook, the eggplant is going to spring its own water and it's going to get marinated in its own natural juices, which is exactly what we want. So you just kind of stir it around until everything is nice and coated with the curry. I am going to add just a little bit of water to this, because we want it with a little bit of sauce so that we can dip roti or rice. So we do that. Another thing we'll be adding to this is our tomatoes. So this is like about 4 small tomatoes. The tomatoes are also going to spring its own water, so that will help with cooking and add some really nice flavor to this as well. Stir that in. And then we're going to add some fresh mushrooms. These are Giorgio mushrooms grown in the state of Pennsylvania. So we have our mushrooms right here. And we're just going to add some of that to here. Add as little or as much as you want to this. And again, you give it a little stir to get some of the curry mixture on everything. Great. And then we're going to add some fresh cilantro. Because cilantro, the flavor of cilantro complements curry excellently. It's the perfect pairing. In fact, I don't think you should ever do any sort of Indian cuisine without fresh cilantro. That's just my suggestion. So that, a staple of any East Indian dish, black pepper. I like to use the whole ones, and you have, and they're freshly crushed. Or you can use one that is already ground already. It's the same thing, but presentation is nice to have the little pepper shaker grinder thingy. And of course, salt. Now we have, if you want to get all fancy with it, we have Himalayan pink salt in our grinder. We're going to add that to this mix. And then we're going to add just a little bit of water to this, just to help it along the process. And we give this one last stir before we cover it down. And we're going to leave this to cook and simmer for about 25 minutes to half an hour. We're going to check back on it then, and we're going to see how everything has been reduced. The eggplant would have sprung its water, and the tomatoes also, and you'll see the gravy starting to work and cook and marinate all of this wonderful vegan goodness. So I'm just going to cover this down. All right, and we are back with our process, and we can see how wonderful this has come together. As I mentioned, the eggplant springs its own water, because you saw the little bit of water that I threw in before. So the eggplant combined with the tomatoes did this. And you could also see that, you know, the eggplants have become, you know, a lot softer. And that's due to, you know, the steaming happening. So we just give this a little stir. And then what we're going to do now, we're just going to leave this to simmer until the potatoes have been cooked. So the potatoes are now getting a little bit opaque. So we're going to cover this back down, let it simmer in its own juices, and we will be back once the potatoes are done and basically show you the finished product. Hi guys, and we're back. So this is the completed dish. This is our potato, eggplant, tomato, and mushroom curry. As you can see, the eggplants have really cooked down nicely. You know, in the steaming and sauteing process, they've basically disappeared into mush, which is exactly what you want. And then the potatoes have become really nice and tender. You see the remnants of the tomatoes and the eggplant, because they're both soft fruits. But, you know, as you can see, this is a whole lot. So I am actually going to make a rice mixture, and what I like to do a combo. So I have this organic quinoa, which is the tricolor quinoa, and then I have my jasmine rice. Don't mind the container. It's jasmine rice in there, jasmati brown rice. It's really good, and these two products combined give you this really nice sort of dirty rice that's extremely healthy. So I just want to thank you so much for those who took the time to look at this. Please, as I said before, if you like to try it, by all means go right ahead. I guarantee you it's going to taste amazing. It's just begun. We have 23 more days to go in the month of February, and who knows, at the end of this month, if I like what I see, if I like the results, I'm gonna stick with it. So thanks again guys for watching, and see you guys again soon. Take care. Bye.